Welcome back to Jays Central, your source for in-depth Blue Jays coverage and analysis. The Toronto Blue Jays made waves in early December when they committed 7 years and $210 million to right-hander Dylan Cease. This massive investment represents the largest contract ever given to a free agent pitcher in franchise history, and it signaled Toronto's intention to compete immediately. The front office identified Cease as their top target from day one, and they were willing to pay premium dollars to secure his services. But recent developments around the league have sparked an important conversation about whether the Blue Jays paid too much for their ace. If you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button right now and let me know in the comments what you think about the Cease signing. Do you believe Toronto overpaid, or was this the right move for the franchise? I want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's get this discussion going. The Detroit Tigers just completed a deal that has everyone talking. They landed left-hander Framber Valdez on a 3-year contract worth $115 million. Valdez brings an impressive resume to Detroit, where he'll form a formidable 1-2 punch alongside reigning Cy Young Award winner Tarik Skubal. The 32-year-old southpaw from the Dominican Republic was widely considered the final elite starting pitcher available on the free agent market. When the offseason began, most analysts grouped 3 names together as the premier pitching options: Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, and Ranger Suarez. All 3 have now found new homes, with Cease heading to Toronto, Suarez signing a 5-year, $130 million deal with Boston, and Valdez now joining the Tigers' rotation. The timing and structure of these deals has created natural comparison points that will follow these pitchers throughout their contracts. Before we dive deeper into the numbers, go ahead and smash that like button if you're finding this analysis valuable, and make sure you're subscribed to Jays Central so you never miss our Blue Jays coverage. Valdez's market took longer to develop than some expected, and there were specific reasons behind the delay. His age certainly played a factor, as the 32-year-old is 2 years older than both Cease and Suarez, which naturally shortens his window of peak performance. Additionally, an incident from last September continued to surface in discussions about his character and professionalism. During a game in September, Valdez appeared to deliberately throw a hard sinker directly at his catcher's chest protector, crossing up Cesar Salazar in what looked like an intentional act. Both players later claimed the incident was unintentional and quickly reconciled, but the moment became a talking point that reportedly gave some teams pause during negotiations. Despite these concerns, Detroit moved forward with their pursuit and ultimately secured Valdez's services for the next 3 seasons. The shorter commitment compared to Cease's 7-year deal immediately raises questions about value and risk assessment. If you haven't already, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me whether you prefer Toronto's long-term approach with Cease or Detroit's shorter commitment to Valdez. Your engagement really helps the channel, so take a second to interact with this video. Now that all 3 top pitchers have signed, the inevitable comparisons begin in earnest. Both Cease and Valdez bring substantial major league experience to their new teams. Valdez accumulated 8 years of big league service time after making his debut with Houston in 2018 at 24 years old. Cease followed 1 year later, breaking into the majors with Chicago in 2019 at age 23. Despite the 1-year age difference, their career trajectories have been remarkably similar in terms of opportunity and workload. Each pitcher has appeared in exactly 188 major league games, providing a perfect sample size for direct statistical comparison. The numbers reveal 2 pitchers who have produced excellent results through different stylistic approaches. Valdez owns a career WAR of 18.9 compared to Cease's 16.8, giving the southpaw a slight edge in overall value. Valdez has logged more innings over his career, throwing 1,080 and 2/3 frames compared to Cease 1,015 and 1/3. His career ERA of 3.36 also beats Cease's 3.88 mark, and his ERA plus of 124 surpasses Cease's 110, indicating Valdez has been more effective relative to league average when accounting for park factors. The walk rate comparison also favors Valdez, who has issued free passes at an 8.7% clip throughout his career compared to Cease's 10% rate. Better command and control have been hallmarks of Valdez's approach, allowing him to work deeper into games and maintain efficiency even when his stuff isn't at its sharpest. However, Cease holds clear advantages in the strikeout department, which reflects his power pitching profile. Over his career, Cease has recorded 1,231 strikeouts compared to Valdez's 1,053, and his strikeout percentage of 28.6% significantly outpaces Valdez's 23.5% mark. Cease misses more bats and generates more swings and misses, which can be incredibly valuable in high-leverage situations where getting a strikeout is crucial. These different strengths make direct comparisons challenging, as teams must decide whether they value command and consistency or raw strikeout ability. Don't forget to like this video if you're appreciating this deep statistical dive, and comment below about which pitcher's profile you prefer for long-term success. I'm really curious to hear what Jays Central viewers think about these contrasting styles. The age difference between the two pitchers cannot be ignored when evaluating their respective contracts. Valdez will be 32 years old this season, while Cease is just 30 years old. That 2-year gap might not seem significant now, but it becomes more meaningful when you consider contract length. Valdez's deal runs through his age 34 season, covering what should still be productive years for a starting pitcher. Cease's 7-year commitment extends through his age 36 season, which takes him into the territory where age-related decline becomes more common and more pronounced. History shows that pitchers often begin experiencing velocity loss, reduced stamina, and increased injury risk as they move through their mid-30s. Toronto is betting that Cease can maintain his effectiveness and health throughout his entire contract, which is far from guaranteed given the physical demands placed on starting pitchers. Detroit's shorter commitment limits their risk exposure, as they'll only be paying Valdez through his mid-30s rather than his late 30s. If either pitcher experiences a significant decline, the team with the longer commitment will face more financial pain. Make sure you're engaging with this content by hitting that like button, and tell me in the comments whether you think the age factor makes Detroit's deal smarter than Toronto's. For frustrated Blue Jays fans who watched their team miss the playoffs last season, the Valdez contract might represent a missed opportunity. If Cease struggles or gets injured during his lengthy deal, those same fans will inevitably point to Valdez's shorter, less risky contract as the path Toronto should have taken. The pressure on Cease to perform immediately and consistently just increased because of this comparison. Every rough start, every injury, every underperformance will be magnified because fans and media will wonder if the front office made the wrong choice. The annual average value also creates interesting talking points. Cease's deal averages $30 million per year, while Valdez's contract averages just over $38 million annually. In terms of annual commitment, Valdez is actually getting paid significantly more than Cease on a per-year basis. However, the shorter term limits Detroit's total financial exposure to $115 million compared to Toronto's $210 million outlay. Teams must balance annual salary against total commitment, and reasonable people can disagree about which approach makes more sense. Before we move to the final block, go ahead and like this video if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me which contract structure you prefer, higher annual value with shorter term or lower annual value with longer term security. Toronto's interest in Valdez was real and documented throughout the offseason. Reports indicated the Blue Jays met with Valdez earlier in the winter, and rumors surfaced just days before his Detroit signing that Toronto remained interested in his services. However, with Cease already locked into that 7-year deal, the financial mathematics of adding Valdez became nearly impossible. Signing both pitchers would have committed approximately $60 million annually to just 2 starting pitchers, a concentration of resources that would have severely limited Toronto's flexibility in other areas. The front office had to make difficult decisions about resource allocation, and they chose to pursue their primary target in Cease rather than spread that money across multiple pitchers. That strategic choice reflects their belief that Cease represents a true ace who can anchor their rotation for years to come. Despite the massive commitment to Cease, Toronto has continued to be active in the marketplace, which should calm concerns about payroll flexibility. After securing Cease, the Blue Jays added several important pieces to their roster, including Cody Ponce, Tyler Rogers, and Kazuma Okamoto. Each of these signings addresses specific roster needs and demonstrates that the Cease contract hasn't paralyzed the front office's ability to make additional moves. Perhaps most notably, Toronto made a very competitive and substantial offer for outfielder Kyle Tucker, showing they're willing to continue spending aggressively to build a championship contender. The Tucker pursuit, though ultimately unsuccessful, proves that ownership remains committed to providing resources necessary to compete at the highest level. Teams that truly overpay for players typically find themselves unable to make additional significant moves afterward, but Toronto's continued activity suggests they've structured their finances to remain flexible. If you're still watching, thank you for sticking with this deep analysis. Hit that like button right now and comment below about what other moves you want to see Toronto make this offseason. Your engagement means everything to Jays Central. The real test of the Cease contract won't come from comparing it to Valdez's deal, but rather from Cease's performance on the mound. If he delivers consistent excellence over the life of his contract, nobody will care that Detroit got Valdez on a shorter deal with higher annual value. Conversely, if Cease struggles with injuries or effectiveness, the comparison will haunt Toronto regardless of how Valdez performs in Detroit. Contract evaluations are ultimately about production relative to cost, and we won't have definitive answers for several years. Cease has shown the ability to be dominant when healthy and right, recording seasons with strikeout rates that rank among the best in baseball. His power arsenal gives him a high ceiling, and if he can harness his command more consistently, he has ace-level potential. Toronto is betting on that potential being realized over 7 years, which represents both significant risk and significant reward. The Blue Jays front office clearly believes Cease can be the anchor of their rotation as they pursue their first World Series championship since 1993. Make sure you like this video and comment your predictions for Cease's first season in Toronto. Will he live up to the massive contract, or will the pressure be too much? Last season provided Toronto with a brutal reminder about the importance of pitching depth. Watching other teams advance to the postseason while dealing with injuries and inconsistency hammered home the reality that you can never have too much quality pitching. Championship teams typically feature multiple reliable starters who can eat innings and keep their team in games night after night. The Blue Jays rotation struggled with health and consistency down the stretch, and those problems directly contributed to their playoff absence. Adding Cease represents a major step toward addressing those concerns, as he provides a proven workhorse who can take the ball every fifth day and give Toronto a chance to win. Pairing him with their existing rotation pieces should create the kind of depth necessary to survive the grueling regular season and make a deep postseason run. Championship windows don't stay open forever, and Toronto clearly believes their window is open right now. They've invested heavily in Cease because they believe he can be the difference maker who gets them back to October baseball and potentially all the way to the World Series. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to Jays Central for more Blue Jays content every single day. The comparison between Cease and Valdez will continue throughout the upcoming season and beyond. Every start will be analyzed, every statistic compared, every win and loss scrutinized through the lens of these contracts. Media members and fans will inevitably create narratives about which team got the better deal, and those narratives will shift based on recent performance. If Cease dominates in April while Valdez struggles, Toronto will look brilliant. If the reverse happens, questions will intensify about whether the Blue Jays overpaid. The reality is that both pitchers can be successful, and both teams can win their respective divisions and compete for championships. Baseball isn't zero-sum, and good pitchers on different teams can both provide tremendous value to their organizations. Toronto fans should focus on what Cease brings to their team rather than worrying about what Valdez brings to Detroit. The Blue Jays didn't sign Cease to beat the Tigers specifically. They signed him to win the American League East and compete for a championship. As long as he helps them achieve those goals, the contract will be considered a success regardless of how Valdez performs in the Motor City. Before you go, make sure you've liked this video and dropped a comment sharing your honest thoughts about both contracts. Do you think Toronto made the right choice, or should they have waited for Valdez? I read every comment, so let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video here on Jays Central. Thanks for watching.